Joining us to talk about this, Windstorm Underwriting Association Vice Chairman David Treutel. We're going to start this segment with Doug Walker.
Hi, Dave. Thank you very much.
Thank goodness Barney Frank's on it, huh?
Yes, we're all counting our blessings. Mr. Treutel, let me start with you as far as all perils go. Is Gene Taylor beating a dead horse with this issue? I know he keeps bringing it up. I know he keeps saying that Maxine Waters is going to help him out. I know they're saying Barney Frank is going to help him out. I don't see all perils ever happening. Do you?
Gene, if it weren't for Gene taking a step forward when he did several years ago, I don't think some of the other plans we're looking at on the national level would have come to the surface. When Gene and I initially talked, and we've discussed this a number of times, one of the thoughts was to find a way to maybe include all perils in a policy. Your homeowners, why should there have to be a separate wind or flood? Why can't it all be put together? He found that it was easier, I think, to go in and tackle it from the only policy that the federal government controls, which is the flood policy, and add wind to it. We now have the Protect America that we heard at the insurance forum. We have the Travelers Plan. There's several of them out there. I believe that they would not be out there if it weren't for Gene stepping forward.
Let me ask you, because I'm not sure about this, Dave. If a tornado hits your house in March, would that come out of your regular hazard policy, or would that come out of your wind policy that's carried because of hurricanes?
There are still some policies that include the wind in the policy, but if the policy had a wind exclusion, it would be a wind exclusion, and if you had a policy through the Mississippi Wind Association, the wind pool, then it would actually be covered under that wind pool policy.
Because I've always thought, even though the insurance industry will never go for this, and this is a kind of off-the-wall idea, why can't you buy hurricane insurance during hurricane season, wind insurance during hurricane season only? So maybe 6 months out of the year, your premium is a little lower than it is during the peak of possible catastrophes.
Interesting that you say that. We do have some commercial companies that are writing wind, and they're writing standalone wind, but it's interesting. They front load the premium so that 75% of the premium is in the 3 months of hurricane season. We haven't done that at the wind pool, but if the point comes where people were to take just a 3-month policy, then the risk would have to be reflected in the rate.
I was just curious about that.
Well, that's an interesting concept. It's never going to fly, but it's an interesting concept. What is the state of insurance in Mississippi? You and I were talking before the show on a personal level. Mine has gone up dramatically. Everybody I talked to in our newsroom has gone up dramatically. The actual coverages have gone down. It seems to be the #1 rebuilding issue on the coast, still.
No doubt about it, Doug. It is a key issue down here. It is the issue facing people. Of course, people are in different boats right now. You have some people that have been with direct writers and the wind's still in their policy. Yet 10 years ago, you had people that lost a lot of policies that had wind, and they've been in the wind pool for the last 10 years. The last increase we've had in the wind pool was 2006. We've actually had 2 back-to-back rate reductions. Thankfully, the money's come in from the governor to help subsidize the rate reductions that we had that went into effect July 1st. And there's some very good credits that are available now for people in the wind pool. What you've seen is some of the carriers have pulled back, some of them are not writing at all, and it's a tale of two cities. People are experiencing different things depending on what you have and where your policy is.
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. After Katrina, Congress had to put $20 billion into the National Flood Insurance Program.
Correct.
That's a correct number? And before people out there tar and feather me for saying this, let me just start by saying I have flood insurance, so it would affect me too. I think flood insurance is too cheap, and I think that's one of the problems.
One of the things that we've not picked up on with this extension of the wind pool legislation is the fact not only is Gene Taylor's wind multi-perils bill included, but we have in there monies that would allow for additional living expenses. It would allow for loss of business income that we don't have. It will address the $20 billion debt. I understand that deficit has still not been addressed. We keep moving it forward. Every 6 months it's extended. Yet no one's addressed the deficiencies.
You'll say that flood insurance, though, for all purposes, is cheap. Inexpensive.
It depends on what zone you're in. I see premiums for the preferred flood zones and the B and C zones that are running $350 a year. But there are people today that are paying $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 or more for flood.
Explain this right now, because from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think so because I've talked to several agents, there are about to be hits with some very sizable increases in the flood insurance premiums if you live in the B zone and in the V zone. That's just around the corner with the renewals. Is that not true?
There's currently a cap right now, and that's part of what's addressed by the House and the Senate versions of the bill that were passed when they tried to modernize flood insurance before. There's currently a cap of 10%, I believe, on flood insurance. Now, that's a cap within the zone from year to year. So you can't see major increases, as I understand it, from year to year in the same zone. But when the cities have adopted these new advisory maps, and if they took your house, Doug, that might have been in a C zone before and they put it in an A zone, then your rates are going to go up commensurate with the rates related to that higher risk flood zone. And we saw, I know on the other side of the coast, Bay St. Louis and Waveland, the big fight going on over there has been at one time they were going to put 40% of the city of Bay St. Louis in the V zone. That you're going to look at tremendous rate increases potentially, and I think some of that's been
All right. Well, Dave Treutel with the State Wind Pool Association, thank you very much for joining us on the program. And before you leave, would you do me a favor and hand me that bucket of tar and feathers here so I can
Dave, listen, it's
start working on Dave here?
flood insurance saved me in Katrina.
All right. Well, thanks.
I will say that. I hate to tell personal stories, but it saved me.
Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you all.
Okay.